Hey, it's Jake Lewis. Thanks for watching MotoAmerica on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Schultz has closed the gap on points leader Petrucci with a little help from the Italian and the speed of his countryman, Cam Peterson. But Gagne is on a charge. 2 in a row for the 21 champ. Can the 11 get his first of the season? It's time to find out right now. You're locked into the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. MotoAmerica Superbikes at Virginia. Our third round of 10 for 2022 from VIRginia International Raceway here in Alton. Hello everyone, welcome to Medallia Superbikes, and I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time champ Jason Pridmore. Now Jason, we saw it in the tease, Jake Gagne is on a win streak and he's looking really strong right now.
Yeah, discussing some things with him this morning about yesterday's race. He says it was really greasy, he was kind of pacing himself, making sure he didn't make any big errors, but he was controlling the race at the front, just kind of like what you and I talked about. He was watching his pit board, and you can see here, Greg, yesterday when this race went off, it was at the hottest part of the day, and Gagne gets off to one of his routine starts. Cam Peterson was off at second at the turn one, but he got pushed back to fourth quickly. Early in the race, Petrucci was taking some shots at Gagne going into turn 1 and turn 7, but then we started to see a couple little bit of mistakes, and Schultz was able to get by, Cam was able to get by when Petrucci lost the front in 5 and 5B. Then Schultz and Peterson kept Gagne really honest, to be fair. The gap, even though it looks big when they came across the line there, Greg, it was only 4 seconds, but there was 3 guys within that span.
Yeah, and they definitely closed the gap from last year. But Jay, let's take a look inside the numbers here, because we wanted to take a look at the gap between Petrucci and Matthew Sculpt. You can see the first part of the year, it was 25-25 because win-win, second. They both scored 0 in Atlanta, but then here at VIR, Schultz was able to make up 9 points on Petrucci. Yeah. So now, or it's 9 points now, so he's able to make up those 6 points on Petrucci. So, you know, Jay, that's really important as we look forward to this, because if Danilo Petrucci has any issues, and Matthew Sculpt has been very consistent this year, it's going to be fireworks as we get to the mid part of the season. Let's welcome Jamie Howe into the mix, and she's with Matthew Sculpt on the grid right now.
Well, Matthew Schultz has enjoyed that consistency, also enjoyed that second place finish yesterday, but this morning in the warm-up session, he had a moment where he trashed the bike that he raced yesterday. The team has had to bring out their backup bike, which is very different in configuration with the tank and the seat, and it's not a bike that you've ridden here in the heat this weekend. What's going to be important, Matthew, over these first couple of laps for you to figure out?
Just really figuring out how the bike feels with the fuel being a little bit more forward and a different size tank. Obviously I've ridden it for the last 2-3 years, but haven't ridden it here this weekend. Just really want to say sorry to the Westby boys, and I kind of trashed the first bike early on today. They managed to put the second bike together for me, and just really hoping that I can make the second race worth it and make up for it and give them a decent result.
A lot of pressure on the shoulders and some things still to answer, Hannah Lupa.
Well, Jamie, for Ashton Yates, this marks his first full season in our Superbike class, and yesterday had a bit of a breakout performance, battling with the likes of Hector Barbera and PJ Jacobsen. Ashton hoping to be the top BMW today. How do you plan to build on the progress you made yesterday?
Yeah, just kind of do the same thing. Yesterday it was pretty awesome to be able to run in with those guys. And today, just stay with them and maybe end up in front of them. So just try my best to stay in that second group and do the best I can.
Definitely a confidence boost for the Superbike rookie, you guys.
Yeah, definitely for him and his team, as you have newer BMWs going after older BMWs. Jason, VIRginia International Raceway is a roller coaster, 2.25 miles long, built in 1957.
Yeah, such a fun track. You go down that front straightaway and you have a kink wide open. You can see there turn 14 just past start finish line. That's wide open through there into hard braking zone into turn 1. A lot of mistakes get made down there. By the time you get over turn 7, Greg, you're heading back uphill across the small ridge. Get to turn 10, you're heading all back downhill in a very fast sequence of lefts and rights all the way around this place. When you come out of turn 13, it can be a little edgy out of there. There's some bumps out of there, and then you head back up a small hill to the run to the start-finish line.
And now it's time for a closer look at VIR with our very own Roger Hayden. Here's Ducati Fast Lap.
Hey, I'm on board the Ducati V4R. Let's look at some passing zones here at VIR. starting with turn 1, the hardest braking corner we have in this track. You'll see a lot of guys braking deep into this corner, trying to make the pass. And then also turn 14, a really tricky, tight right-hand corner. You have to be really aggressive to make this pass, but you'll see a lot of guys going for it. And then the last corner, turn 17, a really fast right-hander which leads onto the front straightaway. And it's so important to get a drive out of there, to get in the draft, to try to make a pass before the finish line.
We're going to step away. When we come back, we are 4.5 minutes away from race start. Petrucci looking to get back in his winning ways, and Jake Lewis looking to try to put his Suzuki on the podium.
Well, Roger Hayden, Jake Gagne trying to do what we saw riders in other classes do, have some dominance and go, follow up a win with another win. Also closing in on championship points. Schultz has a good opportunity here, but Danilo Petrucci, it's time for him to step up as well. He's kind of faced a little bit of adversity. Lost some points with the mechanical DNF at Atlanta, and then comes back here and doesn't have the race that he was looking for. He needs to kind of rewrite that ship as well.
Yeah, it looks like he was struggling with the front end a little bit yesterday after about mid-race. He had a big moment over there, turn 4 or 5 area, and after that kind of lost the group, so he's going to need to do a, try to have a better race today. If he gets 4th again with Jake Gagne getting another win, Jake's going to be close to having that lead almost back down to single digits.
And Petrucci can be fast, but again, you throw in a Schultz that's fast. You throw in a Cam Peterson that feels better today. He thinks he figured out something yesterday, and he feels better today. So again, if you just keep doing what you're doing, Petrucci can be fast and still be in a 4th place position. So he does not need to lose points, but he needs to figure out something. He can't bleed too many today.
And Cam Peterson did look like toward the end of yesterday's race he figured something out.
Yeah.
Because he came on really strong there at the end. But all those guys are going to be competitive. Let's don't forget Matt had that big crash there right there at the warm up, and some of the parts are going to be a little bit different, so it might take a minute to get used to, but I've seen him have some big crashes before and come right back out and be just as fast.
Yeah, and I did talk to him, and he looked like he was moving quite a bit. He said, he was pumped up with ibuprofen. Richie Escalante, we saw him go down yesterday. Another guy that could be in that mix. He was actually, I think his best time yesterday, let me look at it. It was 1:24.94. That's in the same, 1:24.3 is what Petrucci had yesterday. So, I mean, he's not too far off of that if he gets a good start up there. But Matty was very stiff, his neck, and you see him moving it right there. He said he felt some sharp pains when he went to look around.
And that's a really fast corner where he crashed, and the bike made it all the way to the air fence. Luckily for him, he didn't flip too much. When he got up, it didn't look like he was really hurting that much, but after got back to the pit, seems like that's when it kind of kicked in.
Yeah, and the mechanical things or the bike differences are, I think one of them is the tank. He's going to have to run an old tank. He must have done too much damage to that one. I think that's what he was most frustrated for, and that's so important because the weighting of that bike. And I know now he's going to have a little bit more weight on that front end than he wants. That changes the handling characteristics of the machine.
Yeah, it changes the weight of the bike. You got more weight now on the front end and less weight on the back, which gives you more grip, especially in these hot conditions when they have the tank that kind of goes down and under the seat. So it's gonna give him a different feel. But Matt is an experienced rider now, and I think he'll figure it out pretty quick.
Some other guys we've seen maybe in the Yuasa Stock 1000, Hayden Gillums looks very strong. He's going to start on that second row. Maybe they made some adjustments to that bike as well, and he could put one of those other bikes in the mix. We'll find out. Gagne is going to set pole when we send it to the guys next door.
Medallia Superbike coverage is sponsored by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Back at VIRginia International Raceway, Medallia Superbike Race 2 on deck. Let's take a look at the starting grid as Jake Gagne, 123.567 on pole.
Schultz, Cam Peterson there in third, Petrucci, Escalante. Let's hope he can have a little better run than he did yesterday with a small tip-off. Gillum starting outside row number 2 with Jake Lewis, PJ Jacobson, and Ashton Yates. Hector Barber, Travis Wyman, and Jeff May will fill out roll number 4. Then we're going to go back to Michael Gilbert, David Anthony, and Max Flinders. DeBrino, Gerardo, who had a great run in Stock 1000 this morning, and Ezra Bobier, Brandon Posh, Dunham, Daniela Lewis, Coffey, and Nolan Lampkin round out our field back there in row 8.
So the question is, does anyone have an answer for Jake Gagne right now? And talking to Danilo Petrucci about what happened yesterday, and it was all about engine braking strategies that didn't quite have it down. And so, Jay, as we looked at Petrucci yesterday and we're saying, wow, look how deep he's getting on the brakes, he was saying, oh no, I don't know if I can make this corner.
Yeah.
And he mentioned to me that he crashed twice and saved it, but he had 20 times during the race where he was like, I don't think I'm going to make the corner. So they were able to work on that and get that a little bit better today. So we expect to see Petrucci fire off some really big shots under braking as he gets more comfortable on that Ducati Panigale V4R.
I want to see Cam Peterson get a good solid first 2 laps under his belt if he can. And let's see what happens with Schultz on this brand new bike.
20 laps scheduled in this race. Lights are off and we're rolling. Looks like a good start from the number 1 plate. Gagne and Petrucci not with a great one. Peterson in second spot, but here comes Petrucci up the inside, and it's Schultz who slots himself into second place. Looks like a clean run through turn number 1 and turn 2 for most of the field. And looks like Cameron Peterson back in 4th spot had a bit of a moment.
Petrucci came from a long way back to slide himself up there underneath Cam Peterson there in 4th place. Escalante looks like he's got a nice start there in 5th. And it's all about this first lap, isn't it, with Gagne all the time. Look at him right now, Greg, trying to run away. I know that those Westby boys put the best bike they could underneath Schultz for the conditions of having to deal with another crashed motorcycle this morning. So Matthew doing a nice job so far, kind of keeping Gagne honest. But let's see what this first flying lap is. As you can see, Petrucci isn't quite close enough to do anything with Schultz at the moment. And Cam's doing a nice job of keeping Petrucci honest as well. We saw Cam slide back pretty quickly yesterday. And talked to him this morning. He's got to clean those first couple of laps up. And, you know, the thing is, Greg, for Cam Peterson there in 4th, he was able to still see Gagne at the end of that race yesterday. And I think that's a nice step forward for him.
So Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha Racing's Jake Gagne leading the way over Westby Racing's Matthew Sculpt. And then it's Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York's Danilo Petrucci from Italy. And then Cameron Peterson at Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha. And it's all about these first 2 or 3 laps. Gagne's testing the field. And for Schultz, considering that he hasn't ridden this motorcycle all week, it's the backup bike. And I mentioned yesterday that they had handcrafted a new tank for that Yamaha R1 on the Westby team. And that tank got damaged today. And so it's a center of gravity thing. It's a fitment on the motorcycle, ergonomics for Schultz. It widens out the cowling on the tank itself, where you would see your tank on your street bike. And so it's a totally different feel, even though he's had 2 years basically on this setup. So it's going to take Schultz a little while to get used to it as Petrucci starting to close in on the number 11.
And the real shame about that was for me yesterday, Schultz didn't get the greatest start. He was a couple seconds back, 2.5 seconds back with three laps in. And then he just started to bridge that gap to Petrucci and Gagne. He did a really nice job of managing it. And right now, having to get used to a new bike, I think he's doing a really nice job, again, doing the exact same thing. You can see Gagne has gone red in Sector 1, obviously this being their first real flying lap. But he does it, Greg, in a way where he's got 0.6 of a second over the next fastest guy. So when you look at what's going on here, these guys are trying their best to go with Gagne, but he's going to just keep grinding out the laps. Jamie?
And one of the other things on that bike for Matthew Sculpt is with the new tank that they hand built, it was a lot thinner right where the seat was, so it allowed him to grip the bike better. He felt more connected to it. That was part of the reason that he's enjoyed so much success in the early part of this season. And he said that for him, that was going to be the big thing for him to physically get used to while he was still trying to also figure out how the bike was going to perform without as much weight on that rear tire. So he's answering all of those questions right now that we're in the 3rd lap, and he's going to be able to race with it for sure as we see him holding on. He's making something out of what he wasn't sure was going to be anything this morning.
The worst thing as a rider is coming back on a crash truck in morning warm-up. You feel so horrible for doing that to your crew. The hardest thing for a crew is to be able to put that bike back together in a way that's going to make you as competitive as they've done here for Matthew Sculpt. So really big props to everybody, including Matthew, for getting used to this bike right away and riding on it the way he is. 24.1 that last time through for Gagne. We've seen him into the 23s. 23.5, I believe, is lap record in qualifying. How about this? Escalante and PJ Jacobsen. PJ Jacobsen was behind Escalante. The Tytler's BMW rider's done a really good job putting himself in 6th. 24.8 for PJ Jacobsen that last time through. As you can see him just about a second or so adrift of Cam Peterson there in 4th. Those guys are coming down the hill just behind this lead quartet of riders.
So those 4 riders starting to break away from our 5th place as we're heading towards the line. A lot of wheel spin coming out of that 5th place rider onto the front straightaway. So it remains Gagne, Schultz, Petrucci, Cam Peterson, and now PJ Jacobsen. Gagne is setting off into the distance, Hannah.
Greg, he is, and when I asked him yesterday, you know, despite winning, is there anything you would have liked to do differently or better? And he said they made some small changes with the forks, you know, little tweaks to tire pressure. Overall, he really wanted a faster pace at the front, and he wanted to just string all those laps together today with less mistakes. But ultimately, just again, stay in those 24s more consistently, not worry about who's around him, which right now, you know, he's set sail on the rest of the field, and just relax and settle into his rhythm.
Yeah, talking to John Corwell, his crew chief, earlier today, he said he came in and he made a comment that he said, on the first lap of yesterday's race, it felt like I was on a 10-lap tire. And John said to me that that was a setup issue, and that's what they're trying to solve as well, because the way that Gagne likes to race this thing, it's like, go absolutely crazy, put these amazing laps down in the first 3, 4, maybe even 5 laps, and then just manage the gap for the rest of the race.
Yeah, you take advantage of those tires while they're new, and that's really what this young man's doing. And I spoke with him also this morning, Greg, after warm-up. He went out on used rubber this morning and was able to lay down some very fast times. He started to explain to me how he uses his feet a lot more than he's ever done. He says, I'm using my lower body, my legs, my feet, a lot more, changing directions and things like that to get it to where I want the bike to be. I talked to him about some of the things that I said during the telecast yesterday in referring to how he's looking more like Cam Beaubier to me. And he said, he looked at me, he says, yeah, that's a fair statement. He said I think he's learned a lot from that. But Gagne is pretty sharp, and he's always working on his racecraft. As we look a little further back, there's that 5th place or 6th place of 5th place of PJ Jacobsen. Then we got Escalante and Jake Lewis. Escalante, if you remember yesterday, Greg, fell very early in the race on the 54, our Superbike rookie, and he didn't get those crucial laps that you really need to get in order to be able to come back the second day. As you see him get a little loose there out of 5B. He didn't get those crucial laps yesterday, so this is a really nice effort from that Vision Wheel X-Star Suzuki rider.
Richie Escalante talking about gaining weight after being a super sport rider for his entire career here in MotoAmerica, and he needed to gain weight, gain strength. And of course, Jason, when you're in the situation that the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team is in, and you're one of these 2 riders, isn't first priority just beat your teammate?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, these guys are they're 2 of the best guys that you're going to meet in the paddock, Escalante and Jake Lewis. And, you know, Jake talked to him this morning as well, and he said he's a little bit frustrated. He's like, I'm trying everything I can, Jay, to just figure out a way to get the most I can out of this bike. He got into the 24s on Friday, and he's like, I just haven't been able to bridge that gap and get back in there. Now, if you look at the lap times from right now, Jake Lewis has gone 25 flat, as has his teammate. Both riders 25 flats. So this is going to be a continual, I guess, trial and error of progression for both of these riders as they're going to try to bridge that gap down to that lead group of riders that we see every single weekend.
More testing done by the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team during the offseason and during the season. And also American-made swing arm as things start to bunch up in 2nd place. And Cam Peterson up and out of the saddle as he had closed right on the back of Petrucci, as Petrucci is now on the back of Matthew Sculpt. This is the battle for 2nd, 3rd, Jay. And the thing is that Jake Gagne is only 1.4 seconds up the road.
These guys are really running a strong pace behind him. And Gagne told me, he said he was watching his board yesterday and kind of pacing himself as the race goes. But Greg, you know what? We're still not quite in that stage yet. I'd say another 2 or 3 laps. Let's see where that gap goes. It's 1.4, like you say, the last time through. Looks like it's gotten a little bit bigger this lap. But, you know, when these tires are new and everybody's got that adrenaline button going from that start, these guys are pushing as hard as they can, but it's a matter of trying to break the guys behind you, and Gagne can just run those laps one after the other without making mistakes. So let's see what he goes. 24.5 this time. Guys behind him 25.0, 25.0, and 25.1. So over half a second for Gagne that time through. Stretches it out to almost 2 seconds.
Fresh and lean, progressive Yamaha's Jake Gagne coming off of an unbelievable 2021, grabbing that #1 plate. Matthew Sculpt second in the championship.
Back on him, and he's done a nice job of getting himself back on the bike. That time through for Peterson, even with that, Greg, was a 25-1, so he almost matched the leaders. As you can see, these two guys, wow, that's some bike handling skill from Schultz to not get into the back of Petrucci. That was a close one, G-Dub. Petrucci now through to second place.
Danilo Petrucci with a nice aggressive pass on Matthew Sculpt, so he's going to force the issue. Not sure what Petrucci has left. Last time by, like Jason said, a 25 flat. Now with some clean track in front of him. We have 14 laps to go, so there's still a pile of laps remaining in this one. And now Schultz has got to figure, do I have a bike to take a shot on the Ducati?
I really think he does. I mean, I think that bike looks really nice. Schultz has been able to kind of close that gap back down to Petrucci, and it's going to be interesting to see where they pass. Now, we talked, you made me laugh this morning when you said you talked to Petrucci. He heard our telecast last night, and then you could see Schultz going back up underneath Petrucci now into turn 1. He's going to park him. Where's Cam Peterson? Cam Peterson's going to be right there too, Greg. Yep.
Nice move by the South African Schultz to park Petrucci, and even a better job by Cameron Peterson to work his way past the Italian.
Yeah, I saw Cam there, and I was thinking to myself, this is the best opportunity. When you see two guys getting sat up, and Schultz sat Petrucci up, I knew Cam would be there somewhere in that mix, but Petrucci just basically was talking about, like you said at the top of the show, the engine braking management that he lacked a little bit yesterday, and that was what was getting him into that turn so deep. Look how far back Cam Peterson is here. Now, the thing is, the Schultz isn't quite able to tip in where he wants to, so he's got the bike stood up. Cam's behind them, getting the bike turned underneath Petrucci, and he's able to take advantage of that spot.
All the while, Gagne takes advantage of them slowing down into turn #1, and his lead has extended. Cameron Peterson talked about cleaning up his race, especially those first couple laps. What we've seen from Cam Peterson is him doing a great job right now, Jamie.
And one of the issues that he had yesterday was in the confidence. He said that it felt like the front end was just washing away. They made some changes this morning in warm-up. He said all of that confidence came immediately back. He felt connected to the motorcycle. He felt like he was able to ride it and it was planted. And he said if he can stop making the little mistakes that he was making, settle himself down mentally. He said he has to actually say to himself, calm down, Cam. And then he's able to keep his head in the game and just focus. And you saw him with his head down as he went right around Petrucci. So he's going to be a lot happier after the race today.
Yeah, when I spoke with his crew chief, Richard Stambolian, of course, team owner for the Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha team, talking about Cameron Peterson, he was really happy with the conversations he's been having and the new mindset that Peterson showed up to VIR with this weekend. And although Cam Peterson was a little bit ragged in the opening laps of yesterday's race, he settled into a nice pace. And what Stamboli said, if you analyze the data, and Cam Peterson wouldn't have let that gap happen in the middle, he would have been running lap for lap, pace for pace with the leaders in yesterday's race.
Yeah, these guys definitely were able to, last night, make some changes to make that better for him. And he's the guy, he gains a lot of time in that first sector, didn't he? But the second sector now, Schultz doing a nice job just kind of getting away a little bit.
Looking at Cameron Peterson and the comfort on the bike, you can see different riding styles from those two. As Matthew Sculpt, a tall rider, you see a lot of elbows.
Yeah,
you know,
he's a big, tall guy, is Matthew, and you know, you can even see, I can see a little bit of a difference. You know, you talk about that the tank that they reshaped for him to make him a little bit more comfortable, get him a little bit more connected, I think is what you said yesterday. You can definitely see a little bit of difference in his riding style today, ever so slightly compared to what it was yesterday. But, you know, again, you got a very, very great group of qualified guys down there that have put this bike back. There's nothing worse than you know, I'm sure the first couple of laps, just want to make sure the bike gets around the track. You know, there's even the sighting lap and warm-up lap is important.
Well,
for
that's
crew,
really
right?
what we talk about, Jay. It's when you ride a motorcycle and race a motorcycle, you want to be ahead of the motorcycle. When you're jumping on a bike that you haven't ridden on, you got to be thinking about what's underneath you and trying to analyze to make sure everything's feeling okay. And that can definitely make your lap time suffer. But Schultz putting it out of his brain and doing a great job in second place, trying to hold on to it as he's 3.3 seconds adrift of Gagne last time by the stripe. And this is where Cameron Peterson, this part of the race, not force the issue, let it kind of unfold in front of him, start to analyze where he's good on his Yamaha R1 versus where his fellow countryman Schultz is.
Look at how much he pulls through there. Is he going to have a go into turn 10? Not quite close enough, or is he? Nope. Boy, he got a good run through there. Schultz is really good out of turn 7 along the first couple of bits of those S's. I think Cam's really good at the last part of the S's before they break for turn 10. And look how much tighter Cam can come down that hill as opposed to Matthew Schultz just in front of him. Matthew's just so good on the brakes. It's hard to get by him at the end of these straightaways. Cam's close enough.
Two different, well, the engine's the same, but two different builders of engines as we look at the horsepower match between Westby Racing and Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha. Let's talk about Petrucci and what he's got going on, Hannah.
Petrucci's definitely doing well to hang on to the back of this battle as these two duke it out ahead of him. I'm sure he's learning a lot watching. I spoke with the team and they were struggling through some electronic issues yesterday. Today they're really just looking to find a good balance. They said setting up the chassis is one thing, but with the wrong electronics, it creates a chain reaction. And it affects the way that the bike responds to rider input. Let's also not forget that yesterday was really Danilo's first time taking a look at how those Dunlops act after 20 laps in these conditions.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's the thing. When you don't have the engine braking strategy electronically like Petrucci had, trying to analyze exactly what everything works, you know, during the course of the race with those Dunlop tires, he didn't get the full idea, but he got a really good idea. But like I said in talking to him this morning, he was like, yesterday was a rough race. Not to mention the fact that he has mentioned many times that his body doesn't react well to the heat here at VIR. And he brought a couple of MotoGP circuits where it's always hot and how he performed there.
Things like that, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, Greg, when you don't have, when you're relying on the brakes to get the bike slowed down the way he did yesterday, the physicality of that is excruciating, really. And when you have the heat that we had, and you kind of start feeling like a passenger on the bike, it's the worst feeling ever. So today, let's see if he can stay in this fight for that podium spot, because yesterday at around this time we started to see Danilo go back a little bit, but it definitely looks a lot more comfortable for him today getting into the corners like turn 1, turn 7. We've already seen him make a pass on Matthew Sculpt some 5 or 6 laps ago. So they've obviously made an improvement there, and it won't be as physical of a race, I don't believe, for Danilo as it was yesterday.
Sculpt's a little aggressive there, hit the knee pretty hard on the ground. We've seen him do that actually in qualifying earlier this weekend. And you can do that here at VIR. So he has an uncharacteristic look over his shoulder.
Yeah, that's an interesting place to do it as well. Coming through that little series of S's, probably wants to just go through there and see who is that +0 that the team, I'm sure, are putting on his board. Wants to see who that is actually behind him. He's going to see his countryman Cam Peterson still there. This is a spot where Cam actually closed down that gap a lap or 2 ago. Matthew, let's see, last time through our leader is 24.9 to 25.1 for Schultz and mid-24s for Peterson and Petrucci. Just back there still in the 25s also, PJ Jacobson. So the Tyler's BMW guys have made a big step for him overnight, as well as we saw Jacobson and Barbara and Ashton Yates together, all 3 yesterday on the BMW. So PJ Jacobson still rolling around in a very solid 5th place.
Jay, let's talk a little bit about points as we look at Schultz, and then you have Cam Peterson in between he and Petrucci. Petrucci leading this championship over Schultz by 8 points. There's 20 points awarded for 2nd place, which is where Schultz is in. Obviously, Jake Gagne is 3.6 seconds up the road. Petrucci would have 13 points. So the difference there is 7. If we left VIR the way this finishing order is right now, Matthew Schultz would be 1 point behind Danilo Petrucci in the Medallia Superbike Championship. A good look at the live championship, right part of your screen. So of course, we got to finish this race. There's still 8 laps to go, but they're starting to spread out ever so slightly this battle for the last two spots on the podium, as this guy, at the moment, the #1 plate, has got the #1 spot on the podium all wrapped up if he continues on the rampage he's on again. And Jason, Jake Gagne is just on another level right now.
Yeah, well, he's been on another level, hasn't he, for the last year or so. And Coda was very uncharacteristic for this attack team, as we saw. And when they were there at Coda, there were some issues. But the Fresh and Lean Attack Progressive team has done a really nice job as far as getting Gagne back on track of where he needs to go.
If you're new to motorcycle road racing, Medallia Superbike, that is the information that the riders get. It's called a pit board, and when they come across a start-finish line on the front straightaway, the information is given by the team, unless they look back like we saw Schultz do a little while ago. That's the bit of information that they're fed. There's no onboard communication with these Superbikes, which are street-based motorcycles. Right now, it's 1, 2, 3 Yamaha R1, configured in different ways by different teams, but nonetheless doing great lap times. And then, of course, that Ducati Panigale V4R in 4th place. PJ Jacobsen on a BMW M1000 back in 5th spot. And then you still have Richie Escalante and Jake Lewis on those Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki GSXR 1000s. So quite a bit of parity in Medallia Superbike as we talk about PJ Jacobsen. Jamie, what do you know about the 99?
Well, yesterday PJ finished 7th, and he was pretty brutal with himself, and he said that it was embarrassing, that result. He said there's absolutely no reason that he shouldn't be in the top 5, and even at the tail end of the Suzukis and out there able to battle with him. He watched Kyle Wyman took his bike to a podium finish at Road Atlanta, and he just wasn't happy with himself yesterday. He said top 5 is definitely the goal. He's in 5th right now, but he is still about 7 seconds behind Cameron Peterson on the racetrack. He's ahead of Richie Escalante, which he'll be pleased with, but still some work to do. He'll be happier with the top 5 performance, but still not what he was looking for.
Yeah, no, PJ definitely wants to be up front. Of course, PJ the 66, not the 99 in the Medallia Superbike class. That's Jeff May. PJ's 99, he had to give that one up. So he's running 66 this year. But yeah, for PJ Jacobsen, Jason, I mean, you know, he lost a weekend this year, but those Tytler cycle motorcycles, those BMW M1000 RRs, are getting better and better each time they turn a lap on the racetrack, and they're going to get closer and closer to the front of the field.
Yeah, there's no question they're going to continue to get better. And, you know, they had a nice podium at the last round with Kyle Wyman on board when PJ was obviously sick. And so Kyle was able to get their first podium there. And you can see now this battle's tightening up. You still see Gagne off in the distance. And, man, it's so weird because I've been watching this battle, and Schultz is just better in a couple areas than Cam, and Cam's just better in a couple areas than Matthew, and Petrucci just kind of has nowhere to go right now. He's trying to figure out a way to get through. He's still hanging on to the back of these two guys, but he hasn't really taken any big shots. And what do we have, Greg? About 5.5 laps to go right now.
Yeah, and I think if you're Petrucci, Jason, and you know that Gagne's gone, what's the race strategy coming into this? You know, you're trying to conserve your tire, you're trying to conserve your energy, you know you're not the biggest fan of the heat. Do you wait until the last 1 or 2 laps and try to really force the issue, get a big breath of air, and then go for it? Petrucci, he looks comfortable from the riding position in 4th place, but it's definitely not where he wants to finish. And this is not how this is going to finish up. As you can see, Petrucci is able to kind of suck up to the back wheel of Peterson for the moment. And I feel like Gagne right now, I spoke with him about a couple things as far as just kind of managing his race. Wanted to hear kind of what his viewpoints are. And one of the things he said, John Cornwell and him talked about, it doesn't matter if you win by 10 or if you win by 3. You know, it pays the same amount of points. So when you let a guy like Gagne get out and get comfortable, and you can see him just now disappearing off in the distance a little bit more as it's gone to 4.1. These guys kept it at around 3.5 for the majority. But it looks like Jake probably thought, you know, if I get this to 4, I'll be a lot more comfortable. And that's what he's done. It's at 4.1, 25 flat. First 4 guys are the only ones in the 25s still. PJ's just dropped back to 26s. But I just don't know what's going to give between these 3 guys right now. Matthew just looks pretty superior into braking at the end of the straightaways. As you see Petrucci just get out a little bit wide, no big deal there. Get that thing back in line. I still think, Greg, looking at the number 9, I don't know if he can get off the corners as well as he'd like. I still think that Petrucci has got that braking capability to do what he wants, but he can't quite do it. As we get back a little further to this battle for 6th between the 2 Vision Wheel motorcycle GSXR 1000s of Escalante and Jake Lewis. Now we get a chance to see how the progression is with these Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzukis, and with Richie Escalante getting a full race distance under him and gathering all of that information. The class rookie talking about building strength. And when I asked Richie Escalante about the performance of the GSXR 1000 and what he thought it was like compared to the Super Sport machine that he raced last year, and I said, is there anything that stands out? You know, is it the acceleration? Is it the braking? And he said, he goes, you know, what it is, it's like everything on the bike, from the handling to the braking to the horsepower, the acceleration is just another level altogether. And that's why he felt he needed to increase his weight, increase his strength. And you're not going to find a more dedicated motorcycle racer to his fitness off the racetrack than Richie Escalante. And you can see the gap to P.J. Jacobs in the 66 is only about 1.1 seconds. And we're going to keep an eye on that, because all of a sudden now we see P.J. in their gun sights.
Yeah, it looked like he kind of had these guys under control. And I saw Jake Lewis had actually fallen quite a ways behind his teammate about 5-6 laps ago. I was surprised to see the distance, and he's obviously clawing his way back to the back of Escalante too. Last time through for these riders, 26.0 for Escalante, 26.2 for PJ Jacobson. So 6.0 also for Jake Lewis. So, you know, when you see what he's doing right now, Greg, he's putting this time together and he's trying to get that gap back. Hannah?
Talking to Richie Escalante just before the race, he said he wants to shoot for a top 5 finish, and he certainly has that in his sights right now. He said yesterday he really liked how the tires felt at the end of the race, so he's really hoping to make a difference in these last few laps here.
Back up to this battle for second, third, and fourth, and Cameron Peterson has fallen victim to Petrucci, and Peterson now slots himself back to 4th spot. Now, Jason, and one thing, talking to Richard Stamboli, there's obviously chatter, as we can see Cam Peterson really starting to drop fast, but there's chatter in MotoGP about tire pressures when drafting people. And I asked Stamboli, is there anything to that in MotoAmerica Medallia Superbike? And he said, you know, there is. When our riders are drafting other riders, we notice that the oil temperature increases. So that's an indicator that you don't have as much cool air. And he said, you know, yesterday in the race, when Cameron Peterson was closely following the rider in front of him, it's all of a sudden the front performance, the front Dunlop tire started to get really greasy, and he started to lose the front. So they don't have the data yet, but Stamboli says, look, it is on the way. These front wheel sensors that measure temperature and tire pressure are on their way to Medallia Superbike. It's a matter of finding what sensor is going to work for us.
Well, right now, Danilo Petrucci is going to make our bid to get this second place. And if I'm looking at things the way I am, he goes up underneath Matthew Sculpt. He's been sitting there biding his time. Can he get that bike stopped before Matthew turns it back up underneath him? He cannot. So for me, I believe that Petrucci saw Gagne disappearing in the distance, maybe didn't feel like he had enough for him, and thought to himself, I'm going to sit back behind these two guys, take some shots at the end of the race, and try to get as many points as I can, and go on and fight off at Road America in a couple of weeks' time. So Petrucci looks like he's managing this race the best that he can. But boy, man, these two guys here, arguably two of the hardest brake guys that we have. Obviously, you think about Gagne as well, but these two guys are willing to run it in there pretty deep. As you can see, Petrucci taking another look. But Matthew's going to be wary of that now. For the longest time, he's had +0 on his board, but it was Cam behind him. Now he's going to know it's Petrucci.
And this is a championship battle, too, as Petrucci doesn't want to roll out of here with only 1 point over Schultz. The flip-flop in that one and reducing minimum points with only a lap and a half to go. Schultz on a motorcycle that they had to dust off here in MotoAmerica competition. Medallia Superbike is a 1-bike rule. You have to go through tech with 1 motorcycle, and the team has to declare that their original bike is unfit to race, and they can get a second bike together, and that's what happened. And so unfamiliar territory for Schultz turns into a good result here if he can hold on to second place and keep Petrucci behind him. But for this rider on the final lap of the Medallia Superbike race number 2 here at VIRginia International Raceway, Jake Gagne has gone 24.1 as his fastest lap on lap number 2. He's been circulating in the 25.5s. There's a look at the gap, 3.6 seconds.
Matt did a really nice job in that final sector to get down the hill fast enough to where he created a little bit of a gap, so Petrucci couldn't do anything with him in turn 1. The next shot's going to be after they come out of this little S section here on the run down to turn number 7. This is earlier where we saw Cam Peterson get real sideways. Matthew's got to be clean as down through here so that Petrucci can't get underneath him, and he's also got to protect just like he's doing. But Petrucci's going to try to take a shot anyways, but not quite close enough.
Boy, Schultz just sent it into turn number 7, is able to hold a nice tight line, get over the hill, and then start ripping through these S's, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So Petrucci needs to be closer if he's going to throw him something at the top of the hill.
Matthew gets absolutely sideways through there. Total control as he gets down into turn 10. But Greg, can he draft him by the finish line? That's the thing. It's really hard to do on these superbikes. It puts you to the outside.
Coming down the hill, you can see that it's Jake Gagne who's going to come onto the start-finish line and wring the neck of his fresh and lean progressive Yamaha. He will take victory. And the dash for second place comes to the line, and it is Matthew Schultz who holds on for second place over Petrucci by 20 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, that is a result there. I don't know what has happened. Something has happened behind Gagne. It looks like nope. Just trying to figure out what the positions were there. Where is Petrucci?
Not really sure what happened to Petrucci on that one. Yeah, we're taking a look.
Interesting. I'm just looking down right now from out our window here.
So we do know that Danilo Petrucci was able to cross start-finish line in third. But
yeah, turn one is it's hard to go through there, Greg, where he.
So after the race, he crashed.
Yeah, and you could see Gagne looking back, and he was making gestures like, "What has happened back there?" So Petrucci came across the line, and then this fast kink here, and you can see he's up and okay.
Wonder
Thank goodness for that. Wow.
If perhaps he didn't see the checkered flag.
No, he saw it. I think you get in that draft, but he was trying his best to do something with Matthew Sculpt. They came across the line. He may have just ran out to the left edge of the track, Greg. That is so fast down there.
Wow. There's something that we don't usually see.
Yeah, there's the braking markers for turn number 1. So he has done this in the fastest section of the track. And man, is it good to see him up and okay. I could tell that something was going on there just by the looks of what.
Well, the question I have is, why would Jake Gagne know that? That's the thing.
He was looking back. He was looking back to see who finished second and third and saw something going on, and I could see him gesturing. So just happy to see that Danilo Petrucci is up and walking, because that's a scary place to do that.
Well, either way, Jake Gagne will finish in first place over Matthew Schultz and Petrucci. And again, it's the Gagne scenario of race pace. Let's get the most out of that motorcycle, lap number 2, and really throw it down the beginning part of the race and then manage. So Schultz, Petrucci, Peterson, Jacobsen, Escalante, Lewis, Yates, Barbara, Wyman, Travis, David Anthony, Hayden Gillum, Bobier, Gilbert, and Lewis. We'll step away. When we return to VIR, we'll have a chance to talk to Jake Gagne about how he was able to win another one.
Jake Gagne was looking back on what happened. He was also wishing that Cameron Peterson was in front of Danilo Petrucci. Really not sure what happened there, Roger. And if he clipped somebody, the only person I think he probably could have clipped would have been Schultz, maybe trying to.
Well, also Jake Gagne went by a lapper too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe there was.
You know, sometimes when you're trying to go around the outside of somebody through that kink, you know, with the tires, he could have stepped out and ran off. There's a lot of different things that could. I mean, it is a weird spot to crash, but it could have been a couple different things. I'm just guessing until we see a video and we'll talk to Danilo.
Yeah, that was an odd spot. You don't even generally follow through there.
But here the bike don't look
too bad, yeah.
Too bad for that spot.
And it didn't clean out the braking marker there either, too. So, I mean, where did it come from for it to look like that? Some points being made up, though. Jake Gagne, he was 22 points behind. He just gained 9. Again, it just keeps closing more and more. Still helped Matthew Schultz as well. So
good ride from him. You know, that big crash this morning in the warm-up. Having a new gas tank, you know, that bike had to feel totally different.
Yeah.
And, you know, not getting any practice laps and just going straight to the race.
It cut his disadvantage in half, right? He was 8 behind and gained 4 points here. So that's only 4 points between Danilo Petrucci and Matthew Schultz. Gagne gains 9, so what, about 13 now between them. So we got 3 riders within 13 points. That's pretty solid. Pretty solid through 3 full rounds for them. They're trying to explain what happened.
Looks like he went off.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the.
He just took off, and nobody evidently has any video of that. And that's not a place you would generally follow. You know, you get it to the finish line, and I looked out my window, and I saw that Matty was just barely ahead.
Well, he could have been on the out. You know, as they go through that kink on the outside, and then, you know, when Matt goes to the edge of the track like normal.
Yeah, he had nothing
ran
left.
Out of real estate.
In my head, and you see it all the time. I thought that that kink was earlier before that finish line too, though. So that's we see that. We saw it the other day. Who was it? Sam Lockoff or something ran off the track coming down the front straight. That was early.
Last corner, yeah.
Jake Gagne, Matt Schultz, and Danilo Petrucci. You did have a solid ride by Cam Peterson. Just didn't have the pace there at the very end, like literally 3 laps left. Petrucci, you knew, would put on a pass, and he did do that. P.J. Jacobson, solid. Top 5 for him. Back and healthy here on that Tytler's BMW. Had Richie Escalante right behind him. 2/10 behind. Jake Lewis was 2/10 behind Richie. So 5th, 6th, 7th, really close. Ashton Yates, Barbara, and Travis Wyman rounding out the top 10.
Back to Medallia Superbike, race number 2 in the books, and here's the way it looks. Gagne with a 3.2-second victory. Petrucci just 0.02 of a second off of that, and then after he crashed on the front straightaway. And then Cameron Peterson, who had to drop off a little bit at the end, but all the spoils go to Jake Gagne with another victory, and he's down in winner's circle right now.
And Greg, it is Jake's double victory for the first time this season. Yesterday we talked a little bit about the pace of the race. You were hoping for something a bit faster today. Are you happy with your overall performance?
Yeah, I'm pleased we were able to step it up. Even obviously after a good race yesterday, this team, these guys, we want to keep getting better. The competition is high this year, and we got a little bit better feeling in the heat out there this afternoon, so I was happy to get a good first half of the race, and from then on, just try to make no mistakes, because it was pretty brutal out there. Hats off to Fresh and Lean, Tack Performance, Progressive, Yamaha, this R1. I mean, these R1s are working amazing, and Alpine Stars, Rye Helmets, Yamalube, Yamaha Financial Services, everyone watching at home, all the fans, man, this place is packed, sticking it out in the heat. We appreciate you guys. Want to say get well soon. Just my buddy Steve at home watching, and good day.
Thanks, Jake. Congrats.
For our second place finisher, Matthew Sculpt, he has his parents on hand this week, and I overheard, as your dad said, that was the most proud moment of my life. With them here, how much was the performance that you put in today fueled by redemption from this morning?
Man, it felt awesome just to be out there and finish in second place with Danilo and Cam on the ash the whole time. I kept looking at the pit board, 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, 0.2 for about 14 laps straight, G2, so I knew there was 2 guys behind me. Petrucci passed me 1 lap, and I knew I had to get past him soon. I was struggling with the arm pump a little bit, but just a huge thank you to the Westby guys. I mean, this morning I made a silly crash, ran wide in corner 3, tucked the front, and absolutely totaled the bike. We had a new tank and a whole bunch of bits that were a little bit better, so just to come out here and be part of the battle and end up second, I couldn't be happy. Those Westby guys are like family to me. I'm just happy, and hopefully just carry on in this form and try to catch up to Jake. And like you said, I got both of my parents here, and they sacrificed so much for me to get here, and it's awesome that I can give them a good result. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And those second place finishes continue to roll on for Matthew Sculpt, and wow, what a great effort by his crew to get that motorcycle rolling. And empty spot because Petrucci's motorcycle didn't make it, and I don't think he's been able to make it back to victory lane just yet, as we see Hannah in his spot. So look, we'll step away. When we come back, we're going to see if we can get a hold of Danilo Petrucci and talk about his race as Gagne goons his way to this.
Goon rides his way.
All right, Raj. It had to be a proud moment for the Schultz family because he did something that he had to do. He needed to go out there and on a different bike with different bits, different parts, different feels, and perform, and he did.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always awesome to, do that in front of your parents. I mean, all the parents for these riders sacrifice so much time and money to get their kids to this point. And, just think about, what these kids' parents could have if they didn't spend it all on racing. They take a lot of nice vacations, and so it's awesome to do that in front of them. And that was a great ride by Matt. I told you before the race, sometimes I've seen him have some big crashes and come right back.
Yeah.
But it's totally different whenever you got to come to with a bike that you haven't rode before with a different gas tank and, got a good start. He tried to hang in there early, and, when Danilo passed him, he fought right back.
He definitely laid it on the line there. And the championship, you get 25 points for first, you get 20 for second, And I said he's been Mr. second place this year. Let's look at it. 20, 20, 20, 0, 20, and 20. That one race, keeping him out of the possibility of being the points leader, but he keeps doing what he's doing. He's going to be right there, and he is. When they go look back, and they'll talk about it here in a minute, Matthew Schultz is only going to be 4 points behind, less than a handful. That's the difference between first and second on any given race.
Yeah, and we look back to last year, Jake won by 10, 11 seconds. Today, we're looking at 3 seconds. So they're cutting that time, a lot. They just got to keep chipping away at it and get it. Road America is going to be a fast track as well. Seeing Jay Gagne go to the top step of the podium, and his fresh and lean progressive Yamaha. Do not see Danilo Petrucci though, and we saw him walking. He's not really that far away from where the. He walked right past it, actually.
So don't know what's going on there. If he's disappointed or for something, I don't think he's really been talking to too many people in the paddock. I think he made some comments at Atlanta, and a lot of people. Necessarily weren't happy, so I think he's almost just like not saying anything about anything. But I don't know. I thought he had
could be in medical also.
Yeah, that's true. I thought he had a heck of a run, and Dr. Carl Price is the new medical officer here. Oh, CFE, is CFE getting the trophy? Oh, that's awesome. The guys, the wing nuts, and we'll probably see them in New Jersey. Who knows? Whatever. Yeah, we're gonna see them. Yeah, Roger, he could be injured, and that is one thing, because he could be proud about that run too, because he fought. I mean, that was not an easy third by any means.
No, it was a good bounce back from yesterday. Obviously, he's kind of struggled a little bit with the heat. He's mentioned that, and today was hot, so he made a huge step forward from yesterday, and he was close enough. I just think. He tried to make that pass one time in the turn one, and he just couldn't get it slowed up too much, and just got in a little bit deep and allowed Matt to get back under him. But he was fighting hard that last lap to try to get close enough again to kind of fire another shot.
We see how hard it is in this first turn here at VIR. Think about Road America and how long that front straightaway is, and how fast that right-hand first turn is going to be. A track that he hasn't necessarily raced on before.
No, but also the Ducati's got some legs, so
yes.
he's going to be able to stretch on at Road America.
Yes, it is. It is definitely a fast bike, but these guys have been there before and done that. Jay Gagne all smiles. I'll send it back over to Jason and Greg next door. See what they have to say here. The Medallia Superbike's closing.
Medallia Superbike coverage is sponsored by Medallia, the pioneer in customer and employee experience. By Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
So back at VIRginia International Raceway after Medallia Superbike Race 2 is over, and we didn't get to see Danilo Petrucci make his way to victory circle, so we're trying to find out some more information. Hannah, do you have anything on Petrucci?
Well, we just concluded our podium celebrations down here, and as you mentioned, noticeably absent from that was Danilo Petrucci. The bike has not made its way back here yet. We didn't get to see the crash and what happened as he fought his way across the line with Matthew Sculpt and Cameron Peterson to capture that third place finish, but our cameras did catch him up and walking. However, his team is waiting outside of the medical center, and he's just getting checked over.
Yeah, that's going to be a very high-speed crash, so that makes a lot of sense. Take care of that body first. Jay, let's take a look at race 2.
Yeah, you see these guys getting down into turn one. Gagne with another perfect start. Schultz on a bike he doesn't know, running in second and pushing as hard as he can to keep it there. Petrucci did a nice job getting himself into third, and Cam was fourth, and you can see here these guys got a little bit close into turn number 7. Petrucci goes up underneath Schultz, but it was only a matter of a couple of laps till Schultz fought right back and was able to sneak down the inside of Petrucci down into turn 1, a spot he wouldn't give up again. And he also opened the door for Cam Peterson, who at this point in the race had some pace. He was able to kind of keep Schultz honest and Petrucci at bay, but with about 5 to go, Petrucci made his way through on Cam Peterson and started charging back after Schultz. This guy was out front, skating along about 3 to 4 seconds and just controlling the race, looking at his pit board. It's another double win for Jake Gagne, and what is now starting to claw back some points for 2022.
Gagne's third win in a row, and he does it for the love. And sometimes he likes to hand off the hardware. The craziest fans ever crew enjoying it.
Only one more race race to go. They're preparing for the Twins Cup here in just a moment. Medallia Superbike had been completed, and there was our answer, and you heard Hanalopoulos say that it wasn't he didn't want to be up there but needed to do a medical evaluation, and you had somebody text you as well.
And I kind of mentioned that too, because I mean that is a really fast track. Even sometimes when you get up right away, that adrenaline kicks in, and you don't realize, you know, you're hurt. And you start walking back, and things start kicking in, and just take advantage. We got really good medical people here at MotoAmerica, and if something's bothering you, just take the opportunity to get it looked at.
And medical here is actually better than it was before too, because it used to be the old medical or the media center down below our announce position, and now they have a full-on medical facility with beds and everything set up. So again, and Dr. Carl's in there probably evaluating him. One more race to go. Other thoughts as we head to Road America for the next stop in the thing. Any other venues? Well, let's just talk about. We've still got several venues. It still seems like we've been in the season for quite a bit, especially with Daytona starting when it did. But there's still a lot of races left in this season.
Yeah, I mean it's only 3 races into it for
3 of 10, right?
So there's still a lot of racing left, and you know, some people have started out the season real strong, and there's others who need to pick it up a little bit. But it's still really early in the season, and headed to Road America. That's a track next that almost everybody loves that track. The Ridge is pretty new. Then also another amazing track, Laguna Seca. Yeah,
Laguna Seca is always one of my favorite. Brainerd back on the schedule. We had it last year. Saw some interesting races there. Pit race, very, very nice facility just north of Pittsburgh, New Jersey Motorsports Park. The CFE guys, they're going to be there for certain. There's no doubt. They're going to be looking for trophies.
They're usually at Pittsburgh as well.
Yeah, and they double up on those. And if you can't join us at Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama, if the championships haven't been decided before then, we do crown our champions that third week in September. Barbara, it doesn't get much prettier than that. I call it the Augusta of motorsports. And again, we're just, Circuit of Americas was just a Medallia Superbike race, but this is only our second full event of the season, going to number 3 the next time at Road America. We still have one more race to go. The guys still have to close out their show, and then we'll be talking about the Twins Cup, which had an exciting race yesterday, coming down to the wire. We saw it about as close as you'll see, about 1 foot difference between first and second yesterday.
Yeah, it was so close yesterday. We didn't know who won from our vantage point. They had to go get the photo right there at the finish line, and Jody Berry just barely nipped James Rispoli right there at the line. They went back and forth the whole race. Hayden Schultz had a great ride as well. He had himself right there. If those two made a mistake, he was going to be ready to take over.
We know that there was one mistake to be had, and that was James Rispoli. We don't know if it cost him, but he did sit up a little bit and celebrate his second place finish a little too early, and losing out by 1 foot. And I'd asked you yesterday, I said, well, him taking his hand off the bars and raising it up, could that have been the difference? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, for all the times we see these guys getting the tuck, that's the one time we didn't. And that one time might have cost James Rispoli. But we'll see that also from the other side. We've got a still picture of just how close it was. We saw it moving from the outside looking in, but you couldn't see Rispoli's bike. They actually do have the timing and scoring camera. I think it takes 10,000 frames a second. You see it in horse racing or in Formula One, you know, where they do that line shot. You'll see it at the Olympics as well. But it definitely shows by about a foot. James Rispoli not able to catch up with, or not able to keep into that lead. Hayden Schultz trying to do that today. Rispoli's teammate. His sister, a national level or a USA Swim member or in the diving team. Very talented family. Talented James Rispoli. We'll see him as well. Super Sport champion, a dirt tracker. Now back to road racing again, getting the help from Gene Bertram and crew and the Vance and Hines and that Yamaha. We'll see what it can do here in just a minute. But we still have Jason Gregg next door that close out their show and their final thoughts as they move on to the next round as well. So we'll send them back over to Jason Gregg next door and see what they have to say, and we'll pick up with Twins Cup.
Wrapping things up here from VIRginia International Raceway. Jason Pridmore, Jake Gagne's rolling, absolutely rolling.
Yeah, he fought some adversity, obviously, at the beginning of the year, and now you can see what he's starting to do with it. He's Danilo Petrucci, leads by 4 points over Gagne now, just 13 back. Cam Peterson 26 back with Barber, Luis Escalante, Travis Wyman, and Ashton Yates. But
yeah, but in 13 days' time, we're at MotoAmerica, and that's a totally different track. And we know that the Ducati has got some big legs, and Petrucci's looking forward to going there, and they're going to test that pit race before we get there. Well, for Hannah and Jamie and Jason Pridmore, I'm Greg White. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on FS2 in 13 days for Race 1 from Road America.